Hello, LA Kings fans. My name is Keith Freeze, the unofficial outsider of the LA Kings. As you can see here on the screen, I've got my opening night lineup, and we'll go through it. But I've got my top line being Fiala with Byfield and Kempe, and on defense, Gavrikov and Clark. My second line is Foegele, Kopitar, and Laferriere with Anderson and Spence on defense. My third line would be Turcotte, Danault, and Moore with Edmondson and Burrows on defense. And then my fourth forward line would be Lee, Hellenius, and Jeannot with Kemper in net. Now, I'll go through this just a little bit to give you context as to why I put together these lines and my theory behind them. But I'll start with the top line and just say that we've seen Kevin Fiala and Quinton Byfield being playing together during the preseason so far, and I think it is a great combination. But I also thought that Byfield and Kempe were a really good combo when they were playing together on the top line last year. I'm not saying that it's time for Kopitar to move on from being the top line center. He still earns it, and he still is the top line center, but my theory or my thinking in this line was that if you just went, people were saying that if you did Fiala with Kopitar and Kempe, you should just load your top line. And that's basically what I did here, except I just took out Kopitar and I put in Byfield, which would still be a top line. A lot of energy, a lot of creativity offensively for sure. And it's those kind of guys that can pass and score and create space, and having a big body in the middle like Byfield, Kopitar as well, but having a big body in the middle to allow Fiala and Kempe to kind of free roam is really what opened that up. And then you saw during the preseason game, again, I'm saying Kopitar, but there was Kopitar and Kempe with like the nice fast break goal in the Empire Classic preseason game. And I think Byfield could very easily replicate that kind of play if you can get the defense on their heels and you can get the man advantage. This is the kind of line that you would want to do that with, where there's a lot of speed and a lot of finishing ability. And then to have Gavrikov and Clark on defense with that line, the reason why I did that was because I do think that Gavrikov has a really good shot, especially when he steps in about 5 to 10 feet from the point. He kind of like comes up in the play a little bit. He does have a really good shot. And Clark is, in my opinion, I don't think he's much of a shooting offensive defenseman. I think he's more of a passing, creativity, open up space kind of offensive defenseman. And, I just think that if you put Clark on the right with Fiala on the left and you just use those guys as mostly passers that shoot when they get their chance, but, pass more frequently than not, that's going to open up so many more opportunities for Byfield, Kempe, and Gavrikov to score. And I just think that Fiala and Clark could really drive that line offensively in a completely different way. And it's maybe a little too early to say, Byfield should be the top line center, Clark should be the top defenseman, but I'm going to go with it anyway. My second line is Foegele, Kopitar, and Laferriere with Anderson and Spence. The Anderson and Spence part is mostly because Doughty is out with an injury, unfortunately. But Anderson can play with Spence, which I think makes sense. Spence makes sense. How about that? No, but Anderson and Spence, I think, really actually could play really well together. Anderson has been in the league and he's been on this team long enough that he can lead that line. I'm not worried about him, even though he's, a bit younger than, a Gavrikov or an Edmondson. But I still think he's got the ability to lead that line now. And if you put him with Kopitar, it's two guys that it's two guys that are familiar with one another. So it's not totally breaking up that chemistry too much. The reason why I'm putting Foegele and Laferriere with Kopitar is because they keep putting Laferriere with Kopitar right now on the top line. I personally don't think Laferriere should be playing on the top line. That's just me. We can have a separate conversation another day about it. But I just don't think he should be on the top line, but I think he should be a middle six guy, and I think this is a far more appropriate position to put him in and to put him back at right wing, which is his natural position, not playing him on the left. So I'm putting Laferriere at right wing, Foegele at left wing, and again, that's his natural position, Foegele, because they keep putting him at right wing with Fiala and Byfield. I'm trying to balance natural positions here as well, so even at the top line with Fiala, Byfield, and Kempe. But I'm putting Foegele with Laferriere and Kopitar. And another reason why I'm putting Foegele here is I've seen some people talk about how, like, Foegele, he's maybe more of like a third line kind of guy, and I just don't see that. I actually think that he is a second line winger. If you go back and watch some of the games that he played with Edmonton last year, he was playing up with McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins, and he was playing up in that higher level of their forward lines, and I actually think the second line is a perfect place for him. He's got speed, and we've seen it so far during the preseason where if he gets to his position, he plants and he finishes. Laferriere is being coached up on how to plant and finish, and that's like Kopitar's bread and butter. So I do think that having Foegele with Kopitar makes a lot of sense, especially considering that he can really skate, Kopitar can really skate, and Laferriere is coming into his own in that regard as well. So I actually think this one makes sense. Having Spence on the defense does add a little bit more offensive punch to that line, which probably could at times maybe not be seen so much as a scoring line, but just like a line designed to wear down the opposition, take away other teams' second lines. But I do think that would actually be a pretty good combination of Foegele, Kopitar, and Laferriere, pending that they all, kind of grow together naturally. For my third line, I'm going to put Turcotte with Danault and Moore, with Edmundson and Burrows on defense. Trevor Moore is probably more naturally a left wing, and I will not concede to that. I definitely agree. I think Trevor Moore is more of a natural left wing, but because he's not, because Arvidsson isn't on the team, and because I don't think that you can necessarily replicate that. I mean, I guess you could put Akil Thomas at right wing and shift Trevor Moore over to left wing, and maybe on some nights they could do that. But Trevor Moore did show last year that he can play on the right wing, and it does open up his scoring chances with shooting from the middle. So I'm going to put him at right wing here, and I do think that Alex Turcotte is probably more suited to be playing at left wing. While he is probably more of a natural center than anything, I just, I get so kind of like, I have to look at people's natural talents, and the one thing I'll say is that Turcotte is just such a great passer, and his ice vision is really good, and he's very fast. Like his skating speed, I don't think gets brought up enough, but his skating speed is incredibly fast, and that's what you want from your wingers. You want guys that can separate on the outside, and to have the passing and ice vision that he has, I think he's just perfectly made to be a winger. I hate this, I hate to take him away from being a centerman, but I just, the more and more that I think about it, he is more of a left wing, speedster, passer kind of winger. So I'm putting him in this role, and I think all Danault has to do is win some faceoffs and get to his position down low, and you let Turcotte and Moore go fly around for a while. If nothing else, make the opposition skate. Go out there, be creative, take your chances, but at the same time, wear down the opposition. And that also brings in Edmundson and Burrows, who are just going to wear down the opposition by like laying out hits or clogging up the middle or taking away offensive chances. And in a different context, I actually think putting Edmundson with Danault and Burrows coupled with Turcotte and Moore makes a whole hell lot of sense, because, how do you keep people from going after your star players? The way you do that is you put guys in front of them that say, you're not touching my guy. And that's what Edmundson and Burrows and Danault can do for Turcotte and Trevor Moore. So there's like this healthy balance of having some skill on the wings, but having enough pieces in place to help alleviate or take away the chances that your star forwards that have skill are going to go get hurt. And then for my fourth forward line, I'm going to go with Andre Lee, Samuel Hellenius, and Tanner Jeannot. I think that Andre Lee and Samuel Hellenius are ready to go. And especially in a fourth line role, I think that they're ready to go. We can have a conversation all day and night about, Trevor Lewis should be the fourth line center, or, Samuel Fagemo should be out there because if they get on a power play, or, Akil Thomas. And like, those would be the other three forwards that I would actually hold on to. And in a video, I probably should be working on, but, I would say that going into the season, I would only carry 6 defensemen. I would carry 15 forwards and 2 goaltenders. And the 15 forwards would be the 12 that you see on the screen, plus, again, Thomas, Lewis, and Fagemo. And the 6 defensemen would be the ones that you see on screen. Maybe it's a different philosophy other than, keeping 7 defensemen and 14 forwards. But I see this benefit in keeping the 15 forwards, and then when you go so many games without using them, you send them down for a conditioning stint. That way you're not having to worry about the waivers. Fagemo and Thomas would probably be the likely candidates to get sent down on a conditioning stint. Same with Lee and Hellenius. And in order to do that, like without having to clear waivers, you can just do the conditioning stint. They can go down to Ontario. It's a place that they're familiar with, and it's a limited send down as opposed to, we got to send you through wires and we're going to keep you down there for the rest of the season. Because I don't think they should be down there anyway. I think they should be up with the LA Kings. I think they've played well and they've earned that position. But just in terms of a game in, game out type thing, I do think that you could have Lee and Hellenius and Thomas and Fagemo go 5 games without playing, and then it's like, hey, we're going to send you down to Ontario just for 14 days, and then we're bringing you back up. So I do see that happening quite a bit with the Kings, and I'm totally okay with it, so long as they actively are giving these guys chances to play games in the NHL. But that brings me back to this line, which I think that Andre Lee and Samuel Hellenius have earned their chances to play on the opening night roster. I really do. I think Andre Lee and Samuel Hellenius have been a really good pair down in Ontario already, and they've been playing with Taylor Ward at the right wing. I think that Tanner Jeannot is more of a right winger than he is a left winger, even though he's a left shot. Again, that opens up his shooting lane. We've seen Tanner Jeannot score already coming in from the right side. It makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, to put him on this line. It's 3 guys that can go out there and just grind it out, lay some hits, and then add insult to injury by scoring every once in a while. Like, this is the kind of line that other teams would hate to play against when they send out their fourth line. It's kind of, hey, we know we're going to get beat up, and we might even give up a goal here, and I think that's exactly what you want, especially if, the buzzword this season is physicality, and, I don't think that there's anything more descriptive of this line than the word physicality. So I would put Lee out there with Hellenius and Jeannot. And it just depends on what kind of defensive combinations you want to put out there. But I think that hopefully if you can keep their legs going, if you put Edmondson and Burrows out there with these 3, to any defense, like any opposition team out there, good luck. Have fun with that. And finally, in net, I'm going to start with Darcy Kemper. You go with the hot hand. You go with the big money guy. And I actually think his preseason game the other day was really good. He played really solid, and it didn't seem to me like he was out of place. I don't know. I just keep hearing these comments that are sort of negative about him, or they're worried. Or I'm not worried at all. I think he's going to be great. He proved it the other night, and I do think that there's always going to be growing pains, but with this team that is on screen in front of him, I think that the whole team has a chance to win. And with him in net, I think they even have a better chance. So anyway, that's my opening night lineup for the LA Kings. Again, my name is Keith Freeze, the unofficial outsider of the LA Kings. Thank you for tuning in, and go Kings go.